I found out my fiancé was cheating, so I let him ruin himself. I used to think betrayal would feel loud, like screaming, breaking things, tears you couldn't stop. But when I found out my fiancé was cheating on me, it was quiet, almost peaceful, and that's what scared me the most. I had been with Daniel for 7 years. 7, we met when I was barely figuring out who I was, and somehow we grew into adults together. He wasn't flashy or overly romantic, but he was steady, or at least that's what I thought. We had just gotten engaged 6 months before everything fell apart. The ring wasn't extravagant, but I loved it because it felt like a promise, a future, something permanent. Funny how quickly permanence can disappear. It started with something small. It always does. Daniel used to leave his phone anywhere, on the couch, on the table, even in the bathroom. He never cared, but suddenly it was always face down, always within reach, always locked. At first, I brushed it off. People change, habits shift. But then came the late nights. "Work's been crazy," he'd say, loosening his tie, not quite meeting my eyes. And I believed him. I wanted to believe him, because the alternative meant everything I trusted was a lie. The night I found out wasn't dramatic. No lipstick on a collar, no accidental confession, just a notification. He was in the shower and his phone lit up on the bedside table. I wasn't even trying to snoop bar. I just glanced over instinctively. A name popped up. Leah. My stomach dropped. I didn't know any Leah, and I definitely didn't know any Leah with a heart next to her name.
I stared at the phone for what felt like forever.
I could have walked away, pretended I didn't see it, but something inside me already knew. So I picked it up. There's a moment before your life changes where everything feels suspended, like you're standing at the edge of something. And once you step forward, there's no going back. Opening those messages was that moment. It wasn't just cheating. It was a relationship. Conversations that stretched back months. Inside jokes. Plans. Pictures I wish I could erase from my memory. And the worst part, he was different with her. Lighter, happier, more affectionate than he had been with me in a long time. I scrolled until my hands went numb, until I found the message that made everything painfully clear. I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. I didn't cry. Not then. I just placed the phone back exactly where it was and sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the sound of the shower running. The man I was about to marry was just a few feet away, and I suddenly didn't know him at all. When he came out, I smiled. I don't know how I did it, but I did. "Long day?" I asked. "Yeah," he said, running a towel through his hair. "Exhausting." I nodded, like I understood. Like I didn't know he'd been texting another woman minutes before. Something shifted in me after that. Not anger, not yet. Clarity. I started noticing everything I had ignored before. The way he laughed at his phone and didn't share the joke. How he'd step outside to take calls. How he suddenly cared more about his appearance when he said he was just meeting coworkers. It was all so obvious now, like looking at a puzzle once it's already solved. And then I met her. Not intentionally. That would have been too easy. Daniel had invited me to a company event. I almost didn't go. I wasn't in the mood to socialize. But something told me I should. The venue was crowded, full of people in semi-formal clothes, holding drinks and making small talk. Daniel stayed close to me at first, introduced me to a few coworkers, smiled like the perfect fiancé. Then he excused himself. "Just going to say hi to someone," he said. I watched him walk across the room, and then I saw her. She was standing near the bar, laughing at something someone said. Pretty, effortlessly so. And when Daniel approached her, her entire face lit up. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't something you could misinterpret. It was the kind of look you give someone you're in love with. I don't know what possessed me, but I walked over. I introduced myself before either of them could react. Hi, I said, smiling. "I'm Daniel's fiancé." The silence that followed was almost satisfying. Her expression froze for a split second. Daniel looked like he'd been caught in headlights. "Oh," she said, recovering quickly. "I'm Leah. We work together." "Of course you do." Up close, I could see it all. The familiarity, the tension, the unspoken things hanging in the air. And suddenly I wasn't sad. I was angry. Not the explosive kind, the kind that settles deep and stays there. The rest of the night felt surreal. Daniel stayed glued to my side after that, overcompensating, laughing too loudly, holding my hand like he needed to prove something. Leah kept her distance, but I caught her looking at him. And I caught him looking back. On the drive home, he talked about how nice the event was. I nodded at the right moments, played my role perfectly. That night, I finally cried, not because he cheated, but because I realized something worse. He wasn't going to tell me. He was going to marry me and keep lying. That realization changed everything. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life, not because of what he was doing, but because of what I was pretending, smiling, planning a wedding, tasting cakes, picking flowers, all while knowing the man beside me was building a life with someone else. People think revenge is about hurting someone, but for me, it became about truth, about stripping away the illusion he was so comfortable hiding behind. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Our engagement party. It was supposed to be a celebration. Family, friends, laughter, a room full of people who believed in us. I stood there that night, looking around at everyone who had shown up. My parents, his parents, friends who had supported us for years. People who deserved the truth, even if it broke something. Daniel was beside me, smiling, completely unaware. Leah wasn't there. Of course she wasn't. Some secrets are only convenient in the shadows. When it was time for speeches, Daniel went first. He talked about love, commitment, our future. Every word felt like a performance. Like he was reading lines from a script he didn't believe in. Then it was my turn. I held the microphone, feeling every pair of eyes on me. And for a moment, I almost backed out, almost chose the easier path. Silence. But then I looked at him, at the man who thought he could have both. And I knew I couldn't let it continue. I used to think I was lucky. I started. The room quieted. I thought I had found someone honest, someone who respected me. Daniel's smile faltered slightly. I was wrong. You could feel the shift instantly. Confusion, unease. I found out a few weeks ago that Daniel has been in a relationship with someone else. Gasps, whispers. His face went completely white. I met her. I continued, my voice steady. She seems nice. I hope they're very happy together. Stop, Daniel whispered. But I didn't. I just wish I had known before planning a wedding with someone who didn't plan to be faithful. The silence that followed was deafening. I set the microphone down, slipped off my ring, and placed it in his hand. I deserve better, I said quietly. Then I walked away. I didn't look back. Later, I heard everything fell apart for him. His family was furious. Friends distanced themselves. And Leah, apparently, she didn't like being the other woman when it wasn't a secret anymore. They didn't last. As for me, I won't pretend it didn't hurt. It did, more than I can put into words. But walking away from that life, from that lie, was the best thing I ever did. Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't what you do to someone else. It's what you refuse to accept anymore.